observatory. The concrete floor is going to be tiled, and of course we need some glass in the roof. And then just imagine how wonderful it will be to sit here in the evening and gaze up at the stars. I'm sure Patrick Moore would approve. There are some things that are so much a part of British life that to imagine them disappearing is unthinkable. The sound of leather on willow on long summer afternoons, the wonderful English soggy chip, and the Queen at 3 on Christmas Day. And on a par with these is Patrick Moore, who's been presenting the Stargazing Sky at Night programme since 1957.
I came here in 1968, and I wouldn't leave it for anything. I found it more or less by accident. I'd always known Chelsea, and I always rather wanted to live in Chelsea. And when the chance came, I took it. And I came down here house hunting. And I went to see a house at the end of West Street that wasn't suitable. And on the way back, I saw this old place. It wasn't even on the agent's list. So I looked at it, and I fell in love with it. And I asked 2 questions. Has it got wet rot, dry rot, or woodworm? The answer was no. Has it got drains? The answer was yes. And I bought it. Simple as that.
From the moment you walk in, you know that the occupant of this house has very specific interests. Parts of the house have been standing since 1540, and despite Patrick's passion for things space age, he has no desire to embrace the 21st century. I haven't seen a typewriter like that for a long time, Patrick.
They've not been made since about 1910.
But you don't actually use it, do you?
All the time. I was given that typewriter when I was 8 years old, and I've used it ever since.
Bit of a Luddite, are you?
No, I just got thoroughly used to it. It's part of me, if you know what I mean, and I've got other typewriters, but that's the one I really love.
Tell me, when did you actually start this interest in the stars?
When I was 6 years old, I remember the exact moment. I was sitting in the armchair that is now in our drawing room, then my old home at East Grinstead, and it was raining, and I was bored, and I looked in the bookcase, and my mother was just a bit interested. I mean, I don't mean seriously so, but enough to have 1 or 2 small books on it. And I pulled out a small book called The Story of the Solar System, which is in my desk over there, and I read it through, and I was hooked.
Would you actually like to go up there?
I would have loved to have gone up into space, but it would need a very massive rocket to launch me, for one thing. And secondly, of course, I'm far too old and not qualified anyway.
Bravo! That's wonderful, Patrick. You really are a man of many talents.
Not really. I don't pretend to be a musician. I've never actually had a music lesson in my life. I enjoy playing. I can write things for other people. I'm a very poor player myself.
Well, that sounded wonderful to me.
I'm glad you think so.
What appears to be oak panelling is actually cleverly painted plaster. Only the dining room can boast the real thing, and the girl above the mantelpiece is Patrick's grandmother.
Well, she was born in 1856, I think, so that goes back a long way. It must have been an old picture that was coloured up. It's always been there. I can't really tell you much about the back history of it.
The dining room is a rather grand place with its imposing mahogany table and real oak panels. It has a sturdy aura of bygone days, when port was passed to the left and ladies retired for feminine chat. This is an extremely handsome sideboard, Patrick.
It's not a family heirloom, I'm afraid. I bought it for £22 many years ago. My mother saw it and took a fancy to it.
That's extraordinary. I've been admiring your photographs as well. You took those, didn't you?
I'm rather proud of that one, the eclipse of the sun, that I photographed from the Philippine Islands some years back.
And these very curious little paintings.
Oh, yes, indeed. My mother did all those. She was marvellous at that kind of thing. Unfortunately, I'm no good at it myself. Lots more around here. Have a look at them.
They're very strange. Are they they're space creatures?
They are now. Some of them were done long before I was born. That one, for example, was done long before I was born, but later on when I got interested, she started doing them specially.
But it's out here, in the garden, that Patrick can indulge his real passion, in what looks like an oil tank. Patrick, this looks like a very serious piece of equipment you've got.
My main telescope, a 15-inch reflector. As you can see, I've opened the dome. We can then turn the dome any way you like to get access to the entire sky, which we wind with a handle. The telescope is a 2-mirror affair, a small mirror at the top to catch the light, and the big light collector, the 15-inch right at the bottom here, uncap that one. So the light goes right down the tube, onto the main mirror, up to the second mirror, and then into the side of the tube. And you actually look, or put your camera there. Yes, indeed, you do. But see what's happening now.
I can see your fingers, yes. Now, what have you been your main sort of observation?
I'm essentially an observer of the moon and the planets. I was one of the official moon mappers before the Apollo people went there. So I'm concerned mainly with bodies fairly near at hand.
Well, I suppose all we need to do now is wait for night. When Patrick was born, rockets and even aeroplanes were miraculous. Now both are commonplace. With such rapid advances, Patrick firmly believes that one day people will live on Mars.
Our severe 3-month dad